Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New Life Wellness Podcast. Today's guest is the amazing Hailey Watson. Hailey,
Hi.
thank you for showing up. Thank you for
Yes.
being here and
Thank you for
sharing.
having me.
Absolutely, and sharing some of that expertise. I know that you are an RN. That's what we say here in New Life, but I know there's a lot more detail behind that. Do you want to introduce yourself? Can I get into some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Hailey. I am a registered nurse. Been a nurse now for almost 10 years, which is crazy to think.
Time flies.
But in addition to that, I'm also a psychiatric nurse practitioner student. And I am also just very passionate about holistic therapies, holistic healing. And I'm also a certified sound practitioner. And also just very, you know, interested in alternative ways of healing,
Yeah.
right? Because I think that they're currently the way that we operate in this country is, very status quo. But I think that there's so many other avenues and so many other ways that we could be helping people to truly heal,
Right.
right? Rather than just kind of placing a Band-Aid on things. So.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this quite a bit because you and I have had some wonderful conversations. There's definitely an area where there's room to grow within kind of what our culture has for healing, for wellness as a whole. So it's really, really awesome, and really awesome to hear that you're kind of continuing some of that education to be more effective in what you're doing. So I know you have quite a bit of experience, but yeah, it's good to have you, and good to kind of be here and kind of be able to shake it up.
Absolutely. Yes.
So in your healing, like you have a pretty diverse background. You're doing a lot of things on what I would call the alternative medicine kind of area, but you're also in the field of like traditional medicine, in which you're kind of experienced in both worlds. What is your perspective, and how has your experience kind of shaped your perspective on these two worlds and needing to come together?
Right. When I first got into nursing, I was kind of operating kind of in that traditional, way of thinking, right?
Right.
And because this is just how it's supposed to be, right? But as I've evolved in my practice, but not just in my professional practice, but also just my personal life, right? And have kind of gone on my own healing journey and found the things that works for me. I've really come to find that, it's not a one size fits all approach, there's just so many other ways of healing that like actually kind of we can address the root cause of things. And I think that's what it really boils down to. And I think that in order to really, there is a big possibility. And the reason why I'm like pursuing and I'm so just dedicated to finishing my degree is because, I think that as like a licensed practitioner, there's really so much room to make a big difference, and really anyone can make a big difference, but I feel like you kind of almost have to operate within the realm of like traditional healing practices, and then to expand on that, to be able to kind of like merge the two worlds a little bit, and that's kind of my goal, is to kind of change the paradigm, like the way that we think about mental health in this country. Because I think that, there's just so much more room to grow.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. There's a lot that we do. And even in my own experience, I studied a bit of psychology. I worked in wilderness therapy. So there was a lot of ways that we utilized more traditional methods of like, be out in nature, work with a therapist. But it's very interesting what I found within mental health, where a lot of these traditional practices help to regulate a lot of what we now medicate for.
Right.
And I find that absolutely amazing, because what that tells me is there's cultures and cultures, vast across the world, that have already been doing things like this for their solutions, and we're just kind of relearning those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, no, it really is. Because I'm, pursuing my doctorate, right? So I'm working on my dissertation
Smarty
currently.
pants.
Yeah. But what my dissertation is all about is about, utilizing mind-body therapies. And you kind of, in this like program, I have to operate from an evidence-based point of view.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to, it's not like I'm saying like, oh, we should only utilize these mind body therapies, right? But we should utilize them in conjunction with the standard, because my dissertation is mind body therapies for addiction treatment, but to like complement the standard addiction treatment. But what I feel is that, these therapies, they can serve as like great, coping mechanisms for patients that are going through this program, right? And
Right.
things that they can, like non-pharmacological options that they can rely on outside, and like in their own personal lives, things that they can kind of reach for when they have a craving, like when stressful events in their lives arise, so that they don't just go back to doing the same thing over and over again that they've known, right? So
Right.
that they have healthy coping mechanisms to be able to, reach for in those moments.
No, I think that's absolutely amazing, and that's quite the honor too. It's a lot of work to kind of get where you're at and to pursue a doctorate. So,
Thank you.
I absolutely agree. I think it's like, if we look at, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's mind body practices, it's like these are tools in whatever you're doing. Like, you're building a house, you're cooking, you need the right tools. And sometimes you need a variety of tools. Like, not everything is going to work if you have a sledgehammer. Like,
Right.
Sometimes you need a chisel, sometimes you need a scalpel. Sometimes you need a pot, sometimes you need a saucepan, sometimes you need a grill. So having access to these different tools makes it makes the person more capable, because there's answers, but then there's more than one. There's answers from long ago, there's answers from now. And I do think that I agree with you in the sense that I sense that they complement each other, like a little bit of east, west, yin, yang,
Right.
or it's two sides of the same coin.
Absolutely.
And if there's a pattern that works really well, like, we're all different, but if people have tools and more people know about some of these tools rather than what we assume is the standard, we can get a more complete picture with our wellness.
Absolutely. Just a more overall holistic approach to things.
Yeah. Kind of like you mentioned earlier, kind of like actually addressing some of the problems rather than just doing stuff that's symptom based, or like,
Right.
okay, you're experiencing the symptom, let's band-aid that.
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome.
Yes.
And like reliance.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, kind of designed to keep people stuck, I guess,
Right.
and keep people, kind of dependent on these medications to where, you pretty much get condemned like to being on these meds the rest of your life, when, there's so many other things that we could be doing. Like, say, you have like the Ozempic craze right now, right? Where
Right.
it's like everyone is, so like just wants to take a quick fix and be skinny,
Yeah.
right? But not realizing like that, the being skinny is not the important part. The important part is to be healthy.
Right.
Right. And, what do you have to do to be healthy? Well, you have to eat a healthy diet, and you have to exercise, and, and watch what you consume. Right.
Put in a bit of work.
Yes. And yes, exactly.
It's a little bit of effort.
You have to put in effort.
Yeah.
And, and I think mental health is no different. We tend to, or there's a big problem with over prescribing of antidepressants like SSRIs and different things, but I think that people are not being told the importance of doing the inner work and,
Right.
you know, really trying to get to the root cause of the problem. And a lot of times that root cause is trauma, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that in one way or another, like we all have. We
Yeah.
all have experiences in our life that, you know, have shaped us. And we all have traumatic experiences in our life that have shaped us, right? And, you know, when you just slap a Band-Aid on it rather than really addressing it and facing it head on, then it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
You know, those emotions and that trauma, right? It gets stored inside of you and it gets stuck, and eventually it's going to fester and it's going to manifest itself in disease or dis-ease.
Yep.
Right. And things like anxiety and depression. And, you know, people are like, oh, I don't know why I feel like this, but I just do. But,
Right.
you know, and it's because, like, yeah, we're holding on to all of those emotions and memories that, you know, we don't want to face, we don't want to address.
Right.
And so, you know, I think that's, you know, really like with things like psychedelic medicine, right? That's also another thing that I'm very passionate about, and kind of advancing this future of mental health care, where I think that, you know, these medicines that have been used, like you were saying earlier, like used, you know, for like centuries, right? And all of a sudden, you know, they're condemned. And, you know, I saw a thing the other day. It was like something about like how it was talking about psilocybin and saying like, you know, like nature doesn't need to be regulated.
Right.
You know,
it's literally, when it comes to some of the natural forming stuff, obviously they have effects, but usually those effects, as we're finding out, are very healing. Like if you understand like what tribes used plant medicines for, was for ceremony, for, you know, making someone better. That was always the goal. And so we kind of look back on, you know, older, you know, tribes, older generations of human, and we look back and we think, wow, they were really dumb. But one of the cool things that I realized is, and even in my own perspective, every human that has existed within our like known history has had the same level of complexity as like you or I. So it's not that we necessarily have the same words. Like you see how something works, you kind of get an intuitive feel for what it is. And that's where like they used these things and they understood what they were. And there was like a duh factor. It's like, yeah, it's medicine. Like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like it wasn't so much that they just didn't know, or that they were so uneducated and like, you know, they didn't have cars, they didn't have cell phones. They as much focus and as much knowledge that we have about the things that we carry in our pockets, like they understood.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it worked for a long time. And so there's definitely at least a case to be made for our approach in how we at least look at it, and how, you know, everybody I've talked to psychologically knows that there's extreme therapeutic like benefits for the proper usage of different plant medicines.
Right. And I mean, really, when you think about it, like our current, the medications that people are taking nowadays, like those are the outliers, right? Like those are the ones that are new medications. They're weird. Right. Exactly.
So, and I'm grateful for what they've been able to accomplish.
Yes.
So what I don't think is the best is throwing out the pattern from which they came. You know, these ideas of medicines and herbal medicines was what initially kind of started a lot of the pharmaceutical place. Right. You know, you had different compounds within these plants that then they began to synthesize. Right. And then it gets more and more complex. Obviously, there's different ways that they're trying to craft things, but also the original plant still works. Like, there's no reason to throw out that and then just keep the one part, which I think more and more people within society are really moving towards. I think there is this shift that we're seeing towards like more holistic approach. People understand like there's energy within them. People understand that like they should balance, and it's like to their benefit, and it's also their responsibility for like their own like equilibrium within their
Absolutely.
internal and external. So I'm
Yeah.
actually pretty excited about that.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, I will share just a little bit about like my personal healing journey.
I was going to say, how
I
in the heck did you get into all this?
yeah,
Because, this is very well versed. Like, tell us a bit about your story. How
yeah.
did you come to find all these answers?
So I in my younger years, I dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety, and it wasn't, and I was on SSRIs, or really it was the SNRIs. Those were the ones that worked really well for me and gave me very little side effects, because trust me, I tried them all until I found the ones that did work for me and gave me very little side effects. But the problem with those was if I forgot to take it, or I missed a dose, I would get, like, the only thing I can describe it as is like a brain zap. It was like an electrical impulse in my brain that would happen every 30 seconds to a minute until I took the medication. And, and I had decided, like, I didn't want to be on these meds anymore. But and I would go to my nurse practitioner that I was seeing for several years. And I had tried a couple of times to come off, and I would wean myself off. I'd be good for about a month, and then I would just kind of nosedive back into my depression.
Yeah.
And eventually it got to where she basically had condemned me to being on them forever. She was like, Hailey, we know what happens, like, when you stop them, right? So
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's just keep taking them for everybody's sake. And, yeah. And so, and I did. I took them for, I think it was close to 8 years.
Really?
And I one day I met someone that, was talking to me about microdosing psilocybin, which I had kind of had an interest in, but I didn't really know how to even get started with it. And
Right.
I met someone that helped me kind of get a plan together, and within a week, I was able to successfully wean off of my antidepressant without any side effects.
Wow.
Started taking, just a very small amount. So it's subperceptual dosing of psilocybin. So it's not, giving you any type of psychoactive effects. And, it's really just kind of working in the background to help to kind of rewire and like reset things in the brain.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that. I'm happy to report that was almost 4 years ago. And
Wow.
I have since, really been in the best mental health shape of my life. My life has really kind of blossomed over these last 4 years. And yeah, I'm just like very grateful. And that was kind of my driving push to really, jump in on this like psychedelic renaissance train that I saw moving. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me by, because I want to help to bring this to as many people as possible, as many people as that are open to it. And so that was the push to actually get back into school, and specifically to go for my doctorate, so that, because the research really fascinates me.
Right.
There's so much research that's been done in the last several years, and it's just like really amazing results. And
Right.
so that was the push for me to get back into school. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity, I received a partial scholarship through the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Medicine, MAPS, to go to the Psychedelic Science Conference. That was in 2022, I believe,
Yeah.
or 2023. And that's where I met Rob. And, that's really how I got connected to New Life and to all of this. And so,
That's
it's
amazing.
really just been a very beautiful journey. And, it's kind of just getting started. So
I know it's,
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you've had such like amazing experience with kind of your journey, because it can be really difficult while you're in the dark, so to say, or in the gunk of it. I had something similar where literally it just, it was so hard to break out of anything that wasn't just cyclical within depression and anxiety. But then after different experiences and maybe different habit changes, different ways of doing things, my own journey was with microdosing. It had just become legal in California, and I was out there. Someone gave me one that owned a company, it was just a little gummy, and it was something like a very minor dose, but it was something that like I could feel my brain kind of shifting a little bit. And then eventually I figured out, I became aware of things I wasn't aware of within my patterns of my habits of thought, my patterns of action. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can do things. And it was something that was incredible. But no, I'm really glad to hear that that's kind of your experience and that it's so interconnected and intertwined. Because I know, the future holds a lot of interesting things. Mm-hmm. You are going back again. I heard you talking about to the psychedelic conference.
I will be there. Yes.
Ooh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Very excited about it.
So it's still continuing. This journey is like kind of at a really nice good point, but also at the, not the precipice yet. Like it's not at the big point. Like there's still so much fun to have within kind of the journey.
Absolutely.
And you're also a part of the charity that we're working with New Life. Mm-hmm. We're partnered with Healing Pathways.
Yes.
Well, yeah. What's that like? Are you excited for that?
I am so excited for that. I really think that there's so much potential with what we're doing, right? And to bring so many people, the opportunity to potentially, go experience this just like total healing.
Yeah.
And, I think that ibogaine is a very fascinating compound. So there's a study. And really what all of these psychedelics do, right? Because I currently work in ketamine therapy. I'm a nurse giving IV ketamine infusions, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so I get to kind of witness people having these like mini breakthroughs, right?
Yeah.
I think, and the study that I was reading, it was talking about, what these compounds do is like they open up this like critical window this of like where your brain is really just more malleable and it's more easily like basically
influence for like new ideas to come in.
Yes, exactly.
Because I remember us talking about this. That like critical window, like when you're a kid, it's open.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's just like that, because by the time we're 26, our brains, they really just kind of like
get a little set in stone.
Yes, exactly. Right. But when that critical window gets opened, it's like your brain is really like a sponge. And, ketamine has the shortest critical window. It's about 48 hours. And then, you go on to things like MDMA, which is more about a week. And then psilocybin is more about 2 weeks. Then you have like LSD, which is like 3 to 4 weeks. Ibogaine is like up to 5 weeks, where this critical window gets opened and your brain can really make some new positive shifts and positive changes. And the thing that's so fascinating about ibogaine is like its ability, because I'm very, my background is in more like addiction treatment.
Right.
And that's something that I'm very passionate about. And I think that ibogaine is just so like, has the potential to be so transformative in that because it has the ability to really put people into remission from things like opioid abuse, which like can take people years to typically achieve successful recovery. And when it comes to ibogaine, it's like it can basically just put people in remission almost immediately, which is just like incredible.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Because I've worked in in wilderness therapy. It was one of the reasons I loved it. It was one of the highest recovery rates for like rehab type centers. Mm-hmm. And one of the big reasons I found was it gets you away from everything. You have to kind of just sit with yourself. But even that still takes like 3 months, 5 months of being alone in the wilderness and then having positive contact.
Right.
And that's I don't think that's still as effective as some of these studies are showing, like some of these substances to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it's like, it's so exciting to be a part of this, this initiative that is hopefully going to bring so many people, so much healing and so much hope.
Yeah.
really. And yeah, I'm just very grateful to be here.
Heck yeah. Well, we appreciate you being here. It's absolutely amazing. So,
You.
I know that there's a lot of things kind of in store, and yeah, I think we're hitting some amazing strides within culture and within kind of the global understanding of mental health and physical well-being and wellness as a whole. So, and that's one of the beautiful things about even this podcast is we get to talk to people who have like different experience and different expertise within a variety of different places. So it's amazing to kind of talk to someone like you who's had that, experience, and, you're doing so much with it, and we're excited to see where it goes.
Thank you.
So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everyone for joining us. This has been an absolutely amazing time with the wonderful and amazing Hailey Watson.
Thank you.
So don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll keep things coming.
Thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
Bye.